What is going on, everyone? Supreme Kami here. So we're gonna be taking a look at the Transient and Legends Gundam banner over here. Not that, but not the banner, but we're gonna be talking about if you guys have any of the parts you have pulled from like any of those step up, and you're like, all right, I want to alter this or that parts, and you don't want to summon on it. What do you do? If you guys have summoned, anytime during this week, you can use the no name material C, and they can get the L bash to altrate it. That works. This works the same for the Legends Gundam as well. So that is if you have pulled during this whole week over here. All right. So now let's go back to the alteration page. All right. So we are at the alteration page. So we're gonna quickly talk about the Transient Gundam first. So the Transient and Legends Gundam banner were the last 71% chance of getting a 5-star parts error. So after that, they reduced the weight just back to 16%. So everyone was really unhappy with the way they handled it. And this is now that they have never reverted back, and unless some like the really good step up banners, they will have that 71% chance. But other than that, all the regular like the new ones, like the new Gundam Battle Festival or like new Sokais, they're just stuck to that 16%. So this banner, the Transient and Legends Gundam banner came up, but I want to say late November. I did do something on it, and that summon review was fire. As you can see, I was able to get everything. Yeah, back then it was so much more easier to grab the whole set. Like I had this guy probably spent 1,500, yeah, 15,000. Got the whole thing right out of the bat, so that was like back in the day. Those area was a lot more better. But let's take a look at to see how good the part is over here. So for the Transient Gundam, I intentionally put rank 22 because it was just right there. After all these times have passed, when it's 5 months right now, around 4 to 5 months right now, it's still aged fairly well, I would say. I think the headpiece is one of the better one you can kind of use out of this guy. So this most part is like, alright, it's more like we have the older stuff. I think the store is like, do you want the older stuff or the newer stuff, right? Like the Transient gonna release for like a good 5 4 months. So if you guys did do any of like the step up, those regular step up banner that have like every soul cast and every Gundam battle festival, chances are you might put the Transient Gundam pen. I think in this way, if you take a look at the portrait, it's a lot more better than going ham into every week's new banner, right? Oh, let me pull this newest part, the newest shiny part, right? But what are you gonna be left with, right? Because most of the time your portrait is gonna be level one, your EX skill gonna be level one, right? So, I mean, I would rather take a older part that is level 10 compared to like the newest shiny toys that like, all right, I got the newest part, right? But you are looking at a 17. Okay, you are looking at a 17-20 ratio compared to a 30 to a 35 ratio, right? So obviously that is a lot more clear. So obviously you want the 30 to a 35 trait ratio, right? So that's why older part aren't as bad as people would think. Just because like I do this kind of tier list not to like um downgrade all those like older stuff, but it's just to show that or what are some different options, right? If you guys don't have this one. So all right, so take a look at the portrait over here. So this portrait I would say is really good. Like you have when you have close combat active, melee power boosted by 30%, and then if you are using an outfighter, and then EX skill boosted by 35%. So this one is really good over here just because you have a good double trait over here. In my opinion, there's certainly better parts, but I don't recall any of the newer ones that have double traits like this. Like you have the, I mean, yes, the Kshatriya repair was a pretty good option as well. That one obviously being having a better stats. I'll have all the better like not the better, shouldn't say better, right? Alternative option like secondary option. So I have those on the left hand side. So you have double riser, double quanta. Like the double series, they do run like the like a enemy reduction kind of portrait, so I don't really like that. But I mean, some people do like it to build their tank unit, to build their 100% damage reduction unit. I mean, I get that if that is something you guys are into. I mean, that works, right? But I'm more of like a all out offensive guy, so that's why I'm kind of a little bit more biased when I see those enemy reduction EXQ in a way. So that's my justification for that. Double Sky is alright, but it's not like a double offensive like trait in a way. Unicorn was a pretty good one as well. There is another one. That one is gonna be the X1 full cloth, but that one is a pretty good option as well. So you thought there's just a few good options that to keep in mind. All right, moving on to the is then again it's like it's the transient Gundam has something you want to go for? Probably not at this point in time. It's a little bit older, but if you guys have at least one part of it, and it's a good investment, right? Because it's really hard for like free to play players to like me, like I summon all the time, right? So I can obviously pick out the part that I think are best for me. But like for a free to play player, they're like, all right, I only have a certain amount of stones, horrors, so which one is the best to invest in? Like once you get a part that is good double trade, I think that's the part you want to stuck with instead of like, all right, let me go chase the little parts. That is if there's a really big gap difference instead of like in terms of like the stats, but in terms of like the part trade, I think they're all pretty similar at this point in time, right? So there's really no need to like switch every other week if that kind of makes sense, right? All right, moving on to the chest over here. The chest is a these kind of EXQ GNP over here. So it's awakening. I don't really like these kind of awakening skills. Like, what are we doing? This is not something significant over here. Raise your speed by 20%, raise your shot defense, and raise your physical and beam resistant. I mean, it's really good for like defensive style, like if you are building like a tank unit. But otherwise, I don't think these are something anyone really uses in a way. It's alright in stat. I did have a few alternative option of like so those can be a good viable option if you guys do have those. But is the chest something you want to alterate? If you have it, probably not. I don't think that is something you really need to alterate. I don't think. Do let me know. Like, would there be like, is there anyone that will waste a EXQ slot for like awakening, like in your general build, right? I mean, I think there are people that do that, but just me personally, I don't really run all of those over there. All right, the transient in the arm over here. In terms of the stat, it's not looking too shabby. Like back then, right? We're talking about back then. This stat over here was Skyly, right? What do they do with these Skyly melee attack stat? They're gonna slap in an EXQ over here. This one being a ranged type EXQ over here, like not bad. Like after alteration over here, you have pretty good stat over here. This one coming at A piercing B plus power, 11 magazine. So this one I would say is comparable to the high new Gundam or machine gun, but because those are two separate category. This one is more towards like melee. That one's more towards shot. That's why I didn't really include it as like a good recommendation. Just with this one, like being on the melee side, there isn't another good option. Like in just like if you want like a EXQ, beam EXQ, these kind of ones. Most of them are melee based EXQs, so I didn't know why they would do this one, right? But I mean, this one obviously there's a lot more better option now in terms of like I would say the arm for like a melee build is something really important. So having an E skill of this caliber over here just gotta like just lower the value of this over here. So this one is probably not gonna be a good option to archer unless you slap in like a 1 to 100 scale subslot arm, then you can look at some better option. Um so you can come over here, you can probably do I would say L strike. I think L strike would be a pretty good option over here. I think it fits both, right? High mobility and close combat. If that's the case, I think what is it? I think the arm slap onto that. Yep, it fits perfectly. So if you guys subslot a L strike arm, I think you get the best. You get the better stat out of it. A 40.5% as a subslot bonuses. So that's gonna be pretty good. In my personal opinions, I wouldn't alterate it. All right, moving on to the leg. In terms of stat of the leg, it's not still pretty good. Coming in the top 10 over here with a really good portrait over here. So this one is a little bit more specific, like a little bit more geared towards using a dual beam saber, and then like the back part EX could boost by 35%. So we do have a lot more like in general a lot more easier, not more easier, but I would say those have their own restriction as well. Like sometimes they're like specific to using beam weaponry, like beam EX skill. Some other time you have like instead of back part, you have like arm parts and leg parts. So I did list a pretty good alternative option as well. Like there's actually quite a ton, right? There's actually quite a lot of arm. I would say that have a pretty not arm, excuse me, leg. That has some pretty good portraits. So I have those on the left hand side. So you guys can just free to take a look. I'm not gonna include every one of those EXU. Just want to just mention that there's just those options are pretty good as well. For the leg, is something you want to alterate. If you have it, I mean, yeah, go ahead. You can alterate it. It's not too bad, right? It's just what you want to kind of fulfill having that dual saber category equipped either on your skin or your main build if you guys are a skin user. Other than that, it's pretty good. I would say not too bad. But if you guys still have better option already, don't really have to worry about this one. All right, in terms of the backpack over here, we have the transient backpack that is a EXQ. In terms of the stat, it's not looking too bad as well for the melee attack. So in theory, this can be something you can put in your main build and then subslot it like a good portrait option as well. Or if you wanna run this as the EXQ over here on your skin, the lens burst over here not doing too bad. Let's see what is the damage output. A, it's not an A minus, so that one is really good. So this one, I would say, is the first one that kind of have the more cinematic EXQ coming from a 30-second cooldown one over here. So this one, unfortunately, is only gonna raise 19% even at max over here. We have seen better one nowadays. Like if you take a look at the XYO backpack EXQ, it does. I think it raises up to 29 for melee and 19 for shot. The recent example is going to be the H2 Magnum SV. I think that one is pretty good in terms of output, and then in terms of range, that one is going to be really good. This one's not bad as well. This one being a physical type melee EXQ, so it just works in a general perspective, right? In a different perspective, that's what because the other ones are beam melee EXQs. So in terms of some portrait, there may be some discrepancy because some depending on the portrait you run, some support physical and some support beam. So just gotta be careful on that end over there. As for the melee weapon over here, we have the GN Partisan over here. So this one, in terms of the stat for the dualies, like the dual saber over here, not too, looking too bad, but they kind of shot them with like two EX skill. This one and the other one. This one is gonna be the GN lens bit over here. This one I wouldn't really recommend running. I mean, they're a good option just to have. I think this would fit pretty good if you put it on your shop build because it's an EX skill over here. So that is pretty good if you run it on a skin. But would you run this on like a main build? Probably not. I think there's a lot more variable choices like having a melee weapon that have portrait instead of EX skill. So this one I would say good for the skin. But is it worth alterating? Probably not. In my opinion, I wouldn't really alterate this kind of part. I don't think the output. I never actually tested out the output myself. I'm pretty sure the damage is decently well. Probably have it on the like left or right hand side, like my shop build, just to see what's the EXQ, not like the EXQ damage and whatnot. This one is the GM partisan coupled, so this one is a spear one instead. This one is the same problem as well. This one has the EXQ over here, but we have to pick in between which of the EXQ is probably gonna be the dual saber one, because that one comes with an A pierce over there. So for both of them, I wouldn't just really wouldn't recommend alterating that. So up next, we will be talking about the Legends Gundam. Okay, so I have recorded the legends, like talking about how it is already. So I just want to kind of revisit it again. So I'm just gonna scrap that part and redo it again because as you guys can see, this time around I listed two different charts of the legend in them in terms of the stat wise, but the one we're ranking is gonna be based out of the chain shot gear over here. So why did I include two of these chart over here? So one of them is based off from a chain shot gear that will provide you a 30% increase from your shot defense to your shot attack, right? And then the other one is change resistant gear. So that is a combination of both your physical and beam resistant together, and then multiply that 25%, and then that will give it to your melee and shot attack. Why did I do this again? Because I kind of did uh Destiny Gundam, not Destiny, Legends Gundam here wrong because um, we're gonna talk about Legends Gundam and the Hidden Western Fluke Destiny Gundam. There's two special cases where their beam and physical resistance is higher than like combined beam resistance and physical resistance is significantly higher than their like they're just standalone melee and shot defense. That's why we are gonna be using different gear just to do a different calculation. Like the overall um increase in like stat you guys can see on the bottom hand it's a lot more better. Like the rifle is significantly better right now with that change gear. This is way better than the ZZ beam rifle. So this one only works if your all your parts has really high beam resistance over here. Like the whole setup, the Legends Gundam has high beam resistance. So I would say only this one, the full setup, the Legends Gundam can kind of achieve it. I don't recall any other like I didn't really focus, right? Let's be honest, right? I didn't really take it one step further and look at their both their beam resistance and physical resistance. So that's kind of my bad. So I just want to kind of reevaluate right now. So we take a look at this Legends head. After applying the change, all right. Let me actually show you guys what it is before I confuse anyone. So we are gonna take a look at this over here. So normally, if you guys are doing any builds, you would use this um is this the left or right arm, either way, right? So this one raise your melee attack by 30% on your melee defense. In the normal perfect scenario, like my melee build up here, my melee defense is 37k. So if we were to use the physical and beam resistant one, that is way lower, right? That is like a whole chunk difference. But so let me actually show the other gear as well. Oh gosh, okay. This one over here, can I click on it, please? So this one raise your melee attack and shot attack by 25% of your total resistance. So that's why Legends Gundam is really special in its own case because most of the stats are evenly distributed, so you won't see a really high, for example, attack stat, a shot attack stack, or a melee attack stack in this perspective. So if we take a look at the Destiny, why do I keep saying Destiny? My gosh, Legends head over here. We can see that the beam resistance is, I would say, how much is that? Twice, at least twice as much as the beam the shot defense. That's why we are looking at a 10,593 compared to a just say 9,800. So in this respect, this put Legends Gundam in a higher perspective. If you guys have a full set Legends Gundam over here, so that's why I didn't do a full ranking on this one, just because I think this wouldn't be fair if I compare it back to the other ones, like to the other ones. So this one is a sneaky good option over here. Now if we take a look at it in a different perspective over here. All right, coming out to the chest over here. Save situation. Look at the base. Like look at the shot defense. We're only doing a 2,300, and then if we take a look at the tube resistance over here, you are looking at a 4,600, which is like twice. That is already twice as much. So even though you are losing a 5% with the change gear, but I think with the stat, I think all these stats are double. What is the shot defenses? I think this is easily the best. Like Destiny, no, Destiny. Oh my gosh, why? Okay, Legends Gundam, right? So I think Legends Gundam is definitively a better option using that resistant gear. All right, so I would say the head, chest, all traded if you guys have it, and then I would say the beam, like um the the Legends arm over here. I would say didn't really change too much. In a way, it's kind of loses this a smidge, but this way you can compensate that if you sub slot a high new Gundam version Ka, just because you don't want to run this one on your main build because you will be losing out a shield slot over there because this is an integrated arm plus shield. So that is one way to kind of work things out. So in that shield slot, you can probably sub in something that has a really high, for example, physical and beam resistant. I think that would kind of um, up the shot attack of this guy even furthermore. Because I have seen a player that built a full on Legends build that is 90k before using the right leg gear. So that is really powerful. And then look at the portrait for this guy over here. When you are when you have ace exclusive active, shooting power boosted by 30%. When you speed attribute, it is shooting power boosted by another 35%. So this one is a really powerful arm over here. So that is why I think this armor over here deserves an alteration for sure. All right, moving on to the leg over here. I would say that leg, um even with the updated from the updated sheet over here, it's not too impressive. Only 42k. So, in this regard, I think I mean if you so here's the thing, because you can't individually say, oh, I want to use change gear for each individual part. So I think the leg over here might suffer just a little bit, but I think it is compensated with all the other parts in combined, right? So this one, I think you just have to be just the way it is, right? So what you want to do with this leg over here is probably gonna sub in some good leg option that will give you a portrait because you don't want to run an EX skill on the main build, right? So that's gonna be the issue over here. So find something that will have ace exclusive or and for space or I think this one will be a good option to sub in the I think the best one to sub in is gonna be the Destiny Hidden Western Flux version. I think that one will be the best scenario case over here. Alright, so moving on to the backpack over here. Look at that beam resistant. Like, if you have seen all these parts over here, you'll see every stat is kind of like balanced out. So like the beam resistant and physical resistant are really high. So in this regard, with that sneaky gear over there, like this just make Legends Gun 10 times better. Um, the stat did go up by just 400. Like I think the overall winner is gonna be in the melee department. I think the melee did receive a pretty sizable increases in terms of some overall stats. But this is going to be a shot boost base unit, so it doesn't really going to affect too much out of it. So this one is pretty good. But like I said, this one have an EX skill, so most of the cases are you're going to have a sub slot in something that will have a good portrait. I think a good one is going to be the Zeta Gundam, the timeless Zeta Gundam backpack. That's offered to offense supporting traits. So, but one of them is dedicated to using a beam, like any beam weaponry. So that one may be a little bit more restrictive in a way. Moving out now to the weapons over here. I think the weapons increase has the biggest increase because this one does offer like a built-in shot attack over here, but there is no shot defense over here. So that's why if we take into the effects of both the beam and physical resistance, you are looking at around 1,000 more compared just to the regular one I have shown over here. Um, as for these both melee weapon over here, I will say the coupled beam saber is gonna be the better option because this one gives you a unrestricted E skill power boost by 30% when your armor is 60% or more. So this one is really good. And then when you are rifle equipped, initial EX skill charge boosted by 25%. So this one is, I would say, one of the more preferable portrait to have for like your beam saber in this respective over here. If we take a look at just the regular saber over here, even though this one I would say this one has better tag because this one has commander, and that one have for space. But I think if you are, for example, want to run a full legends build over there, I would say having a for space is maybe a slightly better option. This one I would say the portrait is kind of a shaft over here because you have a job grade increased by 17%, and then second one EXQ boost by 35%, but only to the back part. So that would say is a big cut off over there. So your other parts EXQ will not get the benefit of this 35% over here. And then the biggest winner I think out of this set is gonna be the beam rifle over here. If you apply the beam resistant changes to it, you are looking at a 12,306. So that is a really good option over here. So this one I would say is even better, better like a stat than a ZZ beam rifle. But in terms of the portrait, I would say why. So this one they equip it with an enemy EXQ power reduced by 30%. That is something I don't really enjoy. I don't like seeing. So this one maybe a hindrance, but I mean if there are people that like these kind of enemy reduction, power reduction, that can work in your favor. So I think overall, like after revisiting it, after I like do some other comparison, I think the Legends Gundam is a really good option. Just because like we are at a time we have the 2.4 update. Now that we have the access of the right leg gear, the commander tech is continuously getting buffed. So you get 150% buff when you are using that right leg gear. I think is a really powerful option. So I think that they will release the Legends Gundam around this time is a really smart move on their end. So with that being said, this will be it for this two just rerun for the Transient Gundam and Legends Gundam. I would say if you really have to summon on something, it's probably gonna be the Legends Gundam overall. So with that being said, hopefully you guys enjoyed this two unit review over here, and then I will catch you guys on the next one.